today, well, what's the difference between actually having a job and a career?
That's a good question. All right, some may define a job as going to work to get a paycheck and a career as a journey that includes your job's experiences and training. So here to help us break it all down to define your goals is Huffington Post contributor and a contributor for Classy Career Girls and Smart Girls Group is Shinjini. I said it correctly. Shinjini, yes. Shinjini. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, it's an honor and a pleasure.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, let's start off. What's the difference between a job and a career?
Great question, and I definitely want to preface it by saying that there's such a misconception because people think that they're the same, but they're not the same, right? So a job really is a paid work, right? It's temporary in nature, it's today. Whereas a career is more long-term focused, it's a long-term view, a continuous vision of where you see yourself going, depending on your passion, your talents, your skills, and your education.
Well, right now, we've got a lot of new grads that are out there banging on the doors trying to get employed. What would be your advice for them? Should they be looking for just to get their foot in the door anywhere, or, you know, really starting a career path?
Absolutely, great question. So I think being strategic is really important, right? So definitely don't just apply anywhere and everywhere, right? Have a goal of where you see yourself going. Make sure that it aligns with your degree, right? Don't make it random. And I think that's something that I'm a big believer in, is be strategic, but at the same time, understand that, yeah, the first job may be a job, but again, have that view on your career. Because, you know, when you're 22 and graduating, maybe it's not realistic to kind of jump in and say, this is going to be my career. So, yeah, you start out with a job, but make sure that you're focusing long-term on your career as well.
Well, would you also suggest that people start in the career field that they want, like take that entry level? I started off as in a radio gig when I was in college, you know, working that overnight shift, and now I get to sit beside Melanie Hastings every day. You come out of college, and nowadays, unfortunately, there's a lot of debt. And you're looking at, you know, you may not be living with the 5 people that you've been living with the last 4 years. You've got to get your own place and stuff. So do you just take any job, or do you really want to stick with that career path?
I think it's great. If you can find a job in that career field that you want to be in, I think there's nothing like it, right? And so you jump in, you make it happen, really get that experience and exposure to take you to the next level. So I think if you do that, you're fortunate, and you should go with it. Again, it's not realistic for probably everyone to find that foothold first, but if you can, I'd say go for it. You're definitely lucky.
You sure are. So you've got some tips for everybody who wants to transition from a job to a career path. What's your first tip?
Yes, the first tip is definitely create a list of short-term and long-term goals. Prioritize them based on how you want to accomplish them. Sometimes for you, the short-term may be most important, or maybe you're just really long-term focused, in which case long-term goals are very important. So that's number one. Number two is create a personal mission statement, right, for the impact that you want to have on the world, right? And this is something that we're so busy, right? We don't take the time to sit down and really write out a personal mission statement, right? I've done it. It's been amazing. It's changed my life. So I would say everyone watching, definitely do that. And then number 3 is build a value proposition for the value that you bring that no one else does, because you have differentiated value that no one else has. So understand what that is.
So that brings me to my next question, because when I read that in your notes, I took that to mean know your worth.
Right.
So but there is a difference between knowing your worth and then, like, pricing yourself outside of the ballpark, so to speak. Now, how would you tell somebody, learn the difference? Learn the difference, know your worth, but also don't price yourself so high that you don't get the job or the career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you brought up such a great point, Julie. I think it's so important to really think about the industry, right? So what are the industry standards, right? What is everyone else in a similar industry charging? And when I say value, you know, part of it is financial, but a part of it is also just intrinsic. You know, what skills do you have? What's your education? What's your personality? What's your background? Because that's you, and that's your personal brand. So definitely financial, that's part of it. Again, look at the industry, make sure, like you said, I mean, you don't want to, you know, go way out there so it just looks ridiculous.
Right.
So you do want to understand what the industry standards are, but again, understand what value you bring as an individual.
Well, that takes some introspection, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, you really have to have some soul searching. Sit yourself down and have a good heart-to-heart with yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is something that I'm so big on, is just sitting down, understanding, you know, what your purpose is, what your 5-year plan looks like, 10-year plan looks like. I'm telling you, we don't have time, right? A lot of us, because we're so busy, but it's so worth it to take that time, maybe even 10 minutes a day, not more than that.
But what age should you start writing these ideas down, because I know that, there's a younger generation that's still like, I don't know what I want to do.
Right.
And it's like, you need to figure this out.
The millennials?
Right. Yeah, you come out of college, it's like, you need to figure it out. You don't want to live in a house with 5 people forever.
Right. I'm just saying from experience.
Well, I can do some days with a dog.
Right,
You know?
Right, absolutely. Great question. I think college is a great time because there's just so much finding yourself in that time period from 18 to 22, generally 4 years.
Right.
And I think it's just a time of great growth and that sort of transition into real adulthood, or as we like to call it, real world, right? So I think college is a great time, especially if, for all the viewers watching, tell your kids when they go to college to really start that process, because it takes a while, right? It's not magic, it's not overnight, and so, it takes a couple of years.
But it'll pay off eventually.
Absolutely.
Shinjini Das, Huffington Post contributor, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank
Great
you.
ideas.